First of all, sorry for my pronunciation, but these names are a little bit hard for me. So, Georgie Orals from the Pragmatic Engineer podcast had a conversation with three people from Banding Spums. Luca Ferrari, who is the CEO and co-founder, and Francesco Mancon, who is the CTO, and Federico Simeonato, who had been here on my channel a few times. This is a long podcast, a long conversation, and I encourage you to go watch it. There's a lot of technical jargon there, but you can understand it. You get a sense of what they are talking about. I watched it a few times. My plan today is to share my opinion about some of the points they discussed on the podcast. I'll start with Banding Spoons, the company, and then I'll move to Evernote. But again, I think you should also go watch the full episode or listen to if you prefer. Okay, let's do it. I think we should start with Banding Spoon's numbers because right after the acquisition, and to some extent, even today, people are talking about the end of Evernote. I'm going to read it from here because I want to get this right. So we're talking about 700 million in revenue. We're talking about Banding Spoons. Profitable since they founded the company 11 years ago. 200 million monthly active users across all apps, and a little over 400 people. And if you want to geek out these numbers, the podcast talks about so many other technical numbers, AI numbers, server numbers, many things that I don't even understand. So the numbers are really big. And Luca said many times that they acquire these companies in, for example, Evernote, to own and operate forever, and with their own money, with Banding Spoon's money. So this is, in my opinion, such an important detail because we live in this era of investors putting a lot of money on companies and companies trying to grow, and then figure out what's going to happen with the company, how to make the company profitable. Right now, there are some competitors, Evernote competitors, that are on that situation. And even Evernote, if we go back, that's exactly what happened. A lot of money, and here we are. Some of these companies are not lucky enough to find someone to acquire them. Many of them go bankrupt. So I think these numbers are very important. They are kind of a guarantee that our notes are safe, that every note is safe on Banding Spoon's hands. So the cycle of creating a product, growing the user base, looking for investors' money, and then trying to figure out a way to make money or sell or go bankrupt repeats itself over and over again, and even happened to Banding Spoon's first product, which was a failure back in 2010. It was called Evertail, and I want to say I remember it. This name, I think I remember, especially based on how Luca described it. So, but I did a Google search and I didn't find any logo. I was trying to look at a logo and trigger some memories, but I think I remember it. Anyway, they ended up with $40,000, and yes, yes, you heard that right. I had to rewind the podcast at this point because I thought I I got it wrong. But from that 40,000, they invested 10,000 on a product, and they kept repeating that. And of course, I'm oversimplifying it. So go listen to the podcast, and we ended up where we are today. Not we. They ended up where they are today. But what I would like to talk about is how Banding Spoons is structured, because from the very beginning, when I heard about the acquisition, my first impression was that they were kind of investors, that they would buy these companies and they would make the companies more efficient, and that's it. But it's much more than that. So they have this structure where each of these companies are business units. They are autonomous, and the way Luca described the how banning spams works, the engineer and everything works in the company, it felt so much as this agile culture, and I love it because this is what I also teach to companies that I help. And I think that this is the way to go. So all these units, they have these business units, Evernote and each of all the companies they acquired, uh, they have the support of a platform. And I want to read this from here because they they talked about this platform many times. They support the business with, for example, things like authentication, security, monetization, A/B testing, data tracking, and many other things. So this platform supports all the business units, and it's a two-way lane. So if a business unit needs to improve something on that platform, something they are using from the platform, they can improve it, and then they can make this available to all the other business units. And I think that's uh, pretty interesting because it's a way to scale things, and it's completely different from what I was thinking about. It's not like keeping the companies. It's not like investing in the companies. It it's a these companies are completely how would I say that, integrated. There's a structure behind all these companies. So it's like Benny Spones being this master company with all this infrastructure that can help these units, these business units that are in a way independent. So it's a pretty interesting business model. I really think that this is very interesting. I really would like to know more about it. Anyway, let's talk about Evernote. Now let's start geeking out about Evernote, and then I'll share some of my opinions about uh, the numbers and what happened to Evernote. If you use Evernote for as long as I use it, you may remember that at some point the company moved the database, our notes, from inside the company's computers inside the building to cloud servers, Google Cloud. Uh, what I didn't know was how this was done. So they created this virtual machines on Google Cloud, and kind of, I'm gonna air quote this, copied everything to this machine, so it would be a copy of a machine. This is what I understood. Okay, at this point, the podcast got so technical that I had to stop it all the time and search for the terminology to try to understand what they were talking about. Okay, so what was the conversation about? When Benny Spoms acquired Evernote, the code was very old. The way the database was handling information was not efficient. And there's one thing I'm not sure if I got right, but as far as I could understand, most of the load, the heavy work of keeping track of synchronization was done on the client side, on our devices, computer. So the client had this heavy work of keeping track of everything, and that was moved to the server side. On top of all that, there's also the monolith uh, problem. I talked about that on this other video here, and they are expecting to finish that migration at the end of this year. Now, there's one interesting thing that Federico mentioned when he was talking about the improvements to the client, to Evernote, the app, which is they are creating a specific app for the AI transcriptions, the text transcription, the voice transcription. There's some irony to that because around the same time they migrated the servers from inside Evernote to the cloud, they discontinued most of the standalone apps. Evernote used to have many companion apps, let's call them that. I don't know if that app will be integrated to Evernote. I would love to. For example, the scanner app, the note-taking app that were standalone apps, you could use them as standalone apps, or you could, I'm talking about how it was done in the past, or you could subscribe with your, sign in with your Evernote credentials, your user account, your username and password, and that the information would synchronize to a notebook, to a note on your Evernote. I think this full cycle would be nice. Imagine having this simple app that can transcribe anything, and whatever you transcribe will end up becoming a note on your Evernote. Pretty interesting. Now that I know how banning phones operate, if we go back to the acquisition moment, it's much easier to understand why they did what they did at that moment. And if we add to that everything that was done to Evernote until now, there's no doubt in my mind that Evernote is in excellent hands. Anyway, that's it for this one. If it was helpful, I'd appreciate a thumbs up. And if you want to help even more, please consider supporting my work on Patreon or YouTube. Thanks for watching. See you soon.